Welcome back to the Woj Low offseason extravaganza. We hit the draft now. Woj, let's go to the biggest veterans that could be moving, maybe moving. Who knows if they're moving? And it has to start in Washington with Bradley Beal, who's entering the last year of his contract, coming off a sensational All-NBA 30-plus points per game season. Where do we stand? Again, we're 4 days before the draft. Like, if they're going to make, anything's going to happen, there's got to be a little clarity soon. Where do we stand with this?
Bradley Beal has not told the Washington Wizards that he would like a trade. He has not told them anything, but he is invested in helping them in free agency. And, he's obviously gotten a chance to talk to Wes Unseld Jr., their new coach. Now, there's still time for that to happen, but the mechanism to do a Bradley Beal trade or any trade of a player of that caliber is to do it before the draft, because you want to do it around draft picks. Once the draft passes, it's a lot harder to do that deal, because hypothetically, if you're going to do it with Golden State, you're going to tell the Warriors who the players are. You would like it 7 and 14 if those players are in it. And so, listen, Bradley Beal has known the timetable of this, that if he wanted it to be moved, if he wasn't going to sign the extension and decided he was ready to move on, that it really needs to get done before draft night. That doesn't mean he can't still do it, but right now the Wizards are preparing for draft night, and they're preparing for free agency, and certainly Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook are part of their plans for next season.
You mentioned Golden State. Bradley Beal is in his prime, still way younger than people realize because he came into the league so young. Sensational player, great shooter. It's not just going to be Golden State if it ever happens. I think there will be so many teams that try to get into this. I think Boston makes sense. Miami makes sense. Golden State, Philadelphia. We can go on and on. But we can start with the Warriors because you mentioned in the prior segment. To me, if I'm Washington, unless I love James Wiseman, unless I love him, and that's a game changer if I love him. Wiseman, 7, good pick, not a great pick. 14, and Wiggins, unless I love Wiseman, that's not an incredible offer to me if I'm the Wizards. I'm asking for Warriors, you got to give me 2026 unprotected and a swap. And the Warriors, then you could flip, what are the other teams going to offer, right? Like Tyler Hero's value from Miami, I think, is a little lower. They're encumbered with first-round picks. Is Boston going to offer Jaylen Brown? I don't think so. To me, there's not much point in giving up one star for another if you're Boston. So you start to suss out what is the marketplace going to look like. Golden State can reasonably look at it and say, hey, even if you don't love our offer, go get something better.
That's exactly right. And with 1 year left on his deal, Beal has leverage because the team trading for him wants to know that he wants to be there and plans to re-sign. But I also think because of the kind of player and person Bradley Beal is, I think there are teams who might not be in glamour markets who would look and say, if we win, that we could sell Bradley Beal on winning and stay in a situation where we could be really good. That isn't an LA or a New York or a Chicago, Boston, Miami. So I do think the teams out there, there'd be a wide pool. Everybody in the league would love to have Bradley Beal. Listen, he's been very loyal to Washington, and he is.
And it's legit. It's not fake.
He loves it
and wants to win.
Listen, there are some players who look for reasons to leave and some players who look for reasons to stay. He has always been about finding reasons to want to stay there. And certainly they can sign him to the Supermax next season. There's a giant extension awaiting him if he wants to do it. I think he has legitimately been torn, and he's always been looking for reasons to stay there. He loves that organization. He loves that city. But he wants to win, and he's got to look at the landscape with that roster.
Stick with the draft and talk about the Golden State Warriors. According to Marcus Thompson from The Athletic, Bradley Beal and Pascal Siakam are atop the Warriors' wish list should those guys become available. The Warriors have the number 7 and 14 pick in the upcoming draft and have missed the playoffs the last 2 seasons. Let's take a look at the Warriors' core here and their ages, more importantly. They're in win-now mode, so they have the assets, but they also have a little ticking clock here. So, Ramona, how should they approach the draft?
Well, look, the Warriors have been trying to be the Spurs, okay? That was their idea of how they were going to present themselves. You have Steph, Clay, and Draymond as the older version. Then you have the younger version with Wiggins and Wiseman and Jordan Poole. They come along and take over for the 3 players as they get older. It's a nice idea. But you also have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, who want to win now and are ready and theoretically going to be all healthy together this year. And their timeline is different. And I don't know that you can wait for those young kids to develop and take a chance on not having a championship team around Steph Curry when he's still playing at an MVP season. So they have interesting choices to make. I think that Marcus Thompson is as well sourced on the Warriors as any reporter out there. So I have no reason to doubt what his reporting is there. I think the issue with Beal is he available? That's what everybody in the league wants to know. He has to give some signal of what his intentions are long-term in Washington.
That's it.
For them to make a decision, for Russell Westbrook to make a decision, Russell wasn't under contract, but if Beal was not going to commit long-term, then I think that is in play as well. So we need to know where Bradley Beal stands, being the Wizards, the rest of the league, everybody else, because I don't know that he's available yet. So at number 7, I think they have some really good options there. It would have been more interesting if they were in the top 5, but Davion Mitchell is a kid to watch from Baylor. Really good defensive player. They're having him in for a second workout pretty soon. I think he fits he's a young player. He would fit that timeline where you have the 3 young guys and then you have the 3 older guys. That he fits more with that timeline. But he's also a good enough defensive player, and that's something that they really needed last season, and that's the type of player that the Warriors have been built around. The only thing he isn't is tall, but he's a very good, tough defensive player. George, I liked your comparison with Davion Mitchell, sort of like a defensive version of Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, bodies are very similar. Davion is certainly impressive, Perk. Perk, what do you think of the Warriors situation?
Well, look, this is a deep draft, and you know this is one of my favorite times of the year, but no one in this draft is going to help the Warriors and make them a contender right now and help them get over the hump. So with that being said, the most important player on this team, the most important player to this franchise in that franchise history is who? Steph Curry.
Yep.
Steph Curry is coming up for what? A contract extension. Like, we're talking about Damian Lillard and what he wants as far as with Portland, and he's sitting back and he's waiting and evaluating the front office to see if they're going to make the right moves. You don't think Steph Curry is doing the same right now? He wants to win. He don't wants to go back through that stage where he had to baby Kelly Oubre. He don't want to go back to that stage where he had to baby and show Andrew Wiggins the way, and even Wiseman. You have to bring in a veteran. You have to bring in a guy that's going to come in and have an immediate impact on the organization to keep the most important guy healthy and make sure that he signs that contract and be a Warrior for life.
Now, Perk, Ramona brought up an interesting point about Bradley Beal, which is Bradley's got to say, hey, I want to go somewhere else, right? But it's interesting, and Beal is an amazing player, but we're kind of sleeping on Spicy P as part of this discussion in Marcus Thompson's story in The Athletic. I actually like the Pascal Siakam fit on this Warriors team, perhaps even more so than I like Bradley Beal. That, of course, assuming we eventually get to relative normal health with Klay Thompson. But, Perk, what do you make of the potential situation if they had to choose one? Let's just, for argument's sake, say they could pick one or the other, Beal or Siakam. Which one do you think is a better fit?
Well, I'm going with Pascal Siakam. I'm going with a guy that has the experience of actually winning the championship. Give me that 6'9", 6'10", versatile guy, and give me a guy that you could put alongside Draymond Green, that he could put that dog into him. And look, Pascal is so versatile that you actually probably could play him at the 5 and go small. He could be a lob threat at the basket. We have witnessed him on the biggest stage rise to the occasion. Remember game 1, he gave Draymond Green 32 points. We remember that on 12 for 16 to 18 shooting in game 1 of the finals. So I like the addition of Pascal Siakam if they could get him.
Yeah, the Raptors have to want to trade him. He had a bad year.
Right.
So I don't think that's when you want to trade a guy. The Raptors are a really interesting spot at number 4 because Masai Ujiri's situation is still out there. He hasn't signed an extension yet, and his contract's kind of lapsed, so he's just sort of working. I know they've had a lot of discussions. I don't think he's going anywhere, but who's running your franchise right now? You have to.
There's so much drama.
He's running the draft for him.
In the NBA every offseason.